Well, here we have the Poulan Pro PP 4218A, 42 cc's. Okay, so in this video you'll see at the beginning I call it a Poulan Pro. First saw I ever had was a Poulan Wild thing, or at least that's what I called it. And then I started reading up in the history of Poulan, and apparently the way you say it is Poland. And there's a little story behind it. Maybe I'll talk about it in another video, but the true way it's said is to be Poland, like Poland, like the country, but with no D, Poland. And yeah, it's kind of a funny thing because they had commercials, funny commercials telling people that they're always getting it wrong, and some people are calling them Poulan Pros, and it's just kind of a thing there. So in Canada here, most people say Poulan, and that's what I've always said. In this video, I'm trying to say it properly, but it just never feels right. But throughout the whole video, that's pretty much how I refer to it as. We're gonna cut up some wood with this thing. The guy that owns it, he bought it and it's never run right from the get-go, so we did a little work to it, just tuned it up basically. That's all we did to it. And yeah, we're gonna see how it performs here. Okay, so we'll do a little review here on features and stuff. So on the Poulan Pro, it has like when you pull out the choke, the stop button automatically goes to on, which is kind of nice, like that. And then after you start it up and you fire it up, it clicks the choke off. It also has a primer on it, and that's kind of a nice feature if it's really cold out. Let's get rid of these. And then on the Stihl, it has a little different setup. Basically, you pull the trigger in, you go all the way down. That's for full choke. And then when you fire it up, and you squeeze the trigger, it'll kick the choke off. So, and then if it's a hot, like say the chainsaw was running and it's hot, and you put the saw down, say you load some firewood or do whatever, and you want to restart it again, it hasn't completely cooled off, but yet it's not hot, there's kind of like there's a half choke right there. So you can put it on half choke. So that's that. I meant to say throttle there, not choke. As far as working on them goes, on the Poulan Pro, you got to take off 3 screws. 1, 2, 3, then the cover comes off. It's not real hard or anything, but on the Stihl, you just put this all the way down, pull the little latch or whatever, and cover comes right off. Air filter is there. I broke the little tab off on here when it was cold one day, so I got an elastic. I got a new filter coming. So I ended up buying some Chinese filters. I think there was a pack of 5 of them. They were real cheap, and they looked good, so I thought I'd get them. Well, they just do not fit at all. At least that's the brand I got didn't fit at all. So again, you get what you pay for, and just go right to the Stihl dealer and get the filters, because those China ones are junk. So that's that. It's pretty nice to work on this one. Like it's fairly good. On the Poulan Pro though, it's actually completely wide open here, and really nice to work on. The Poulan has like the throttle doesn't feel quite as nice. It feels a little stiffer and whatnot. it's cable operated, and it's just not as nice as the Stihl is. Stihl is all just a linkage, and it's really responsive. It's nice, and the handle's a lot skinnier. Just feels better. I don't got big hands, but if somebody had bigger, huger hands, it might they might find this more comfortable. But I definitely find that the Stihl is nicer. Okay, as for starting, the Poulan Pro has like an easy start system where it's like I think it's a spring assisted system, and so when you're cranking it over, it's just much easier to start. Not that the Stihl is hard to start, but this is an easier pull for sure. And on the new saws, the MS2, I think it's an MS251. It's got that same starting system on it. As far as the fill plugs go, these are kind of, let's just put this back on. Okay, for the fill plugs, these are, you can definitely get if you have your gloves on or something, you can definitely, get the caps off easy. There's the oil, there's for the fuel, and it seems to hold a decent amount of fuel. I don't know what the actual specs are. I'll try to find them for each saw and post pictures of them. So I couldn't find the specs for the Poulan, but here's the ones for the Stihl. It shows the capacities and whatnot. I imagine the Poulan's similar. But this system, just unscrews off. There you go. And on the Stihl though, I like this system better here. You just pull it up, quarter turn, and it's off. And then they've got these little lineup marks too that you can see. Where is it? Right here. So you just line them up. You just line them up, and then there you go. Same for the oil. One feature that the Poulan Pro does not have, or I don't think it does, it has a spot to hook it up, but it's a bucking spike, or felling dogs, as some people call them. There's a couple different names, but this thing right here. And I really like them. So, like some people don't like them. To me, I couldn't be without them. It just really stabilizes the saw when you when you got it sunk into the wood. It just makes for a nice, a nice cut, I find. This thing really jumps around. I don't know if it's the chain style or what, but yeah. So they both got 18-inch bars on them. But if you actually measure this, you got like 17 inches cutting here on the bottom to here, and on this one, it's like 16. And it's a little fatter. The Stihl has, I think you can adjust the oiling on it, but you can on the Poulan. But the Poulan puts out plenty of oil, and I think it's good just the way it is. Some people think it oils too much, but I think it's good the way it is, and as far as quality goes. This thing's made in China. I think this one's engineered, Germany. Okay, I say that it's made in China. I mean, it's made. Some of the parts are probably made in Taiwan or China, and then I think they're assembled in the USA, and that may hold true for the Stihl as well, but I'm not sure on all that. But you might want to check that out if that's a big concern to you. And they are made in the US though, so I mean, there's the quality for the Stihl is definitely better, but it's also, it's a 500. It's $450 right now to buy one of these new Canadian dollars, and this thing is $299, I believe it is, for the same thing. So the price of the Stihl just comes with the saw and a scrench, I think. That's it. Whereas the Poulan comes with a case, a bar guard, a scrench that's only good to adjust the chain really. You can't even remove the spark plug with it. It comes with 2 chains though, so it's pretty good value for what you're getting. So take your pick, but we'll continue on here. Okay, let's do some cold starts on these two and see how they start when they're completely cold. Okay, it says on the saw here to prime it 6 times, so that's what I did. There, it started good. I think it was around minus 15 Celsius here, or 8 degrees Fahrenheit. You can see that primer is a nice feature on the Poulan Pro as it fired after the first pull. Okay, well they both started great there, so I don't think you can ask for any more than that. Okay, well the Poulan Pro, it's a pretty much a brand new saw. It's got maybe 2-3 tanks of fuel, if that, run through it. The other one's it's had some use on it. Definitely well broken in. The MS 250, that is. And but you can see that the Poulan still starts good, despite that it's not totally broken in yet. Okay, well, it got too late the other day, so I couldn't finish this video. So today we're gonna finish where we left off. And of course, it just started snowing, but that's okay. It's been beautiful weather for like 2 weeks now, so. Well, a buddy called and it started snowing, so. Anyway, we'll get back to the saw business and we'll see how, we'll see what RPM this saw is cutting at. Okay, so I got this little gauge, and what it does is you just hold it up to the saw like that, close to where the spark plug is, and it actually reads the RPM. And they have like a maximum RPM, so when it's not under load, there's supposed to be a spec, for this saw right here, the MS 250, it's 14,000 RPMs, I believe. So that's what you're supposed to set at. Right now, that saw is at 15,500. So I've got it running a bit lean. And what I've found out, just because I'm not a chainsaw expert here, but getting to know them a little better. But I found out that when you're cutting with them and you're right into the wood, they you tune them while you're cutting, and boy, you can really make them work good then. So I tuned this Poulan Pro up there last time, and right now in the wood it's cutting at like 8,800 to 9,000 RPMs. And I talked to this other fellow and he found the specs for me, and that's exactly what the specs are supposed to be while it's cutting in the wood, is that RPM. So that's perfect. So it's set up just right. This thing, as far as the idle goes, the idle's supposed to be 2,800 RPM, and I had just set it by ear, and it's actually right at 2,800 RPM. I checked it with the little gauge here, but it's revving too high, so I'll have to move my mixture screw out. My high mixture screw, I'll have to turn it out, and that'll make it run a little richer, and it'll drop my RPM when it's out of the wood, but it will definitely make it, or should definitely make it cut better while it's in the wood. And I noticed that when I was cutting, or when I was tuning this one, it cut much better once I richened it up while under load. So you don't want to be too rich, but you don't want to be too lean either. So it wasn't lean where it was like going to blow up the saw or anything. I checked the plug looked decent, but yeah, it's working as good as it can work now anyway. Yeah, I got this one idling around 2,900, so it's pretty good there. Okay, so now that I made 2 or 3 cuts and it's warmed right up, it's actually idling, at 3,600. It's probably maybe a little bit high. It's kind of hunting a little bit with the idle, so I might either richen or lean up the low end, and or just turn down the idle slightly. But I want it to run good for the guy when he first fires it up too. It is a lot colder today than when I set it up the other day, so that plays a big role. Okay, now it's idling like right around 3,000 RPMs, and so what I did was I turned out the low speed mixture screw just a little bit, and then I turned down the idle, the main idle, just so it's drawing completely off that low speed circuit. If this is cranked up too high, it's hard to get that idle right, where it just idles nice and smooth. And so I want it set up so that it's rich enough so when the guy starts this thing up in the winter, or just anytime it's cold, yeah, you have the choke on for a little bit, but when you shut the choke off, you kind of want the saw to idle. Otherwise, it'll just keep stalling if it's too lean. So right now, it should be set up just perfect for that. So now I'll make a few cuts, and then we'll see how what RPM it's cutting at on the top RPM. I guess we'll see what it's putting out when it's in the wheel. Okay, it didn't like that 2,900 RPMs. I had to get the RPMs up a bit higher, but because what was happening is I would cut, and it would I'd cut like 2, 3, 4 times, and then I would let off the throttle, and sometimes it wanted to stall. So I got it set up now. It's good the way it is. I had to bump the idle up just a bit, and it's perfect now. Okay, folks, let's stop right there. So what I found out later on was actually what was happening when I was cutting. I would cut for quite a while, and then if I let off the throttle, it would die on me. That ended up being because it was too lean on the low end, and I richened it up, and that fixed it. In here, I talk about how I mess with the idle, and that seemed to work temporarily, but ultimately, in the end, I needed to richen it up. And sometimes you even have to play with the high jet and richen it up as well. It's usually what happens is they just kind of lean out for a second, so you don't want your saw running like right on the edge, but you got to have it so when you're cutting and you let off, it has to keep running. It can't die on you or it's not right. Cut's really good, and it's about as good as this little thing's ever going to work, unless I start doing muffler mods and things like that. But it's not my saw, so if the other guy wants to do that, he can do it. Okay, so the Poulan Pro is cutting actually really good. Now, one thing about these is there's 3 screws here. And there's this screw, and then this one. And these 2 came out nice, but this one had snow in it. I don't know if you can see that. But there was snow in there, so it was really hard to get the screwdriver on it. So that's where the Stihl is nice, because the MS 250 has like it's just one little, and then the whole cover comes off. But once this one does have, let's see here. This one does have nice access. Like once you do have it off, you have more room than the Stihl does. So yeah, there's the little power plant, and it seems to be working really good. Now, I don't think this has a winter a winter mode on yeah, because it sucks. It's I'm just trying to see if it sucks its air from back in here, right? But on the Stihl, the MS250, it's got like a little flap. I'll show you that after. And for summertime, you leave the flap in, but for winter, you take it out. So when the fan's blowing the air across the cooling fins here, it actually is able to suck in some warm air. And like right now, it's probably, you know, minus 14 or minus 15 C. It's she's winter, right? So it's nice to have that little bit of extra warm air sometimes. If you're working them hard enough, they're not bad, but it just depends on your temps. If you get really cold temperatures, then you might have some issues with it running. This one's running really good right now. Yeah, I don't think it has any kind of a, I guess it's sucking air anyways from this area. So I guess it's kind of sucking its warm air. But whether it will overheat in the summer or not, who knows? I think it'll be fine. But, well, there you go. So the other thing is, I don't think it came in the kit. The scrunch that they give you is, you know, it's just got a round end on that one, and this is just for tightening the chain for these. So if you want to take the spark plug out, it looks like they just don't want you touching this thing. I mean, they don't seem to give you the plug wrench unless the guy that owns the saw has it, but I think that's all they give you. So I had to use the one that I got with the MS250, and yeah, so you can pull the plug out. I mean, normally you're not gonna have to mess with this, but sometimes it's just, you know, nice to, if it's not running or stalls on you, it's nice to be able to pull the plug out and see what the heck's going wrong with this thing. So between not having the tool for that and then having these oddball special tool you need to adjust these, you know, it's pretty clear. They just don't want the average Joe messing with the saw, which is kind of understandable for, I guess, warranty reasons and stuff. They don't want a guy to lean out the saw and blow it up. And you can kind of see there after using the plug for a while, it's getting it's starting to get some color on it. It doesn't look so white anymore. It's getting a nice chocolatey color, I guess. But I'll still have to show you how to read the little, I don't think that's going to focus, but I'll still show you how you can read that little electrode tip there.
Okay, I'm just checking the RPM here and seeing what it's cutting at while it's in the wood.
well, it's cutting really good, and that's it. Okay, I can have it back and cut down the forest. Okay, so I got it. I got it cutting really good. It starts really good, runs really good. Everything's great. It's as good as it's gonna ever get, and you know, really, for a cheaper saw, it's not that bad at all. Just has to be set up right. Maybe down the road, once this thing's broken in and stuff, we'll do a little shootout between an MS 250 and a what is this thing? A 4218A Poulan Pro. The Stihl for sure revs higher and whatnot, cuts better, a little bit better, but this thing's not bad. This one's a little smaller too. It's 42 cc's. The MS 250 I think is 45.4 cc's, so it's a little bit bigger. But you can't really compare the two saws, you know, 100%. It's just kind of a fun review, just to show what the differences are. Yeah, there you go. Okay, here we are, day 3. I finally got out here before the sun was gonna go down. So I'm doing lots of cutting with this thing, just experimenting with it, playing with different things with the jetting, and the latest thing I did was I took off the spark arrestor just to see if it helped, and I think I noticed a slight improvement for sure. I just took off that little nut and pulled out the spark arrestor. It's, you know, it's probably a good idea just to leave them in. They're there for a reason, but they can get plugged up over time. Some guys just take them right out. I guess it's your choice, but anyway, it's out now. It's cutting really good for what it is. So yeah, so we'll take a little video, show it making its final cut, and then that's the end of it, of what I'm gonna do to this thing. But it seems to be a little more finicky, or well, a lot more finicky than the Stihl. You know, made in USA or made in Germany versus made in China, I guess, might have something to do with that. Better quality parts, but for sure, if you can get this saw on sale, it's a decent little saw. Okay, we'll get to cutting here and show you what it's made of. Okay, the one thing you can see here is the Stihl is much skinnier saw than this other one, than the Poulan Pro. It just feels nice, this Stihl, and this one's okay. Feels a bit mushy when you're into the wood, and it certainly needs that. That bucking, whatever the hell you call those things, buck and spike. But it cuts good. It does its job. It just doesn't quite feel as high end as the Stihl does. And the Stihl's much it's a tighter feeling saw. It's just, you just know it's higher end. Commercial break. Just kidding, but it's you can notice it that it's revving a little bit higher, eh?
Like, I think so anyways. I don't remember if I checked the RPM after just to see the difference, but I took so many videos, I can't remember. Well, this was obviously after the other one, I think, anyways. But, yeah, it definitely seems to be revving a little bit higher there. I'll have to do some time trials with it. I've actually done a muffler mod to this saw since, but that's for another video.
There she is. Poulan Pro. Look out, folks. High performance. Okay, so we got the Stihl MS 250 out here now, and it's the chain is definitely nearing the end of its life here, and it's not crazy sharp or anything, but whatever. It's just a kind of a bit of a comparison. There's no doubt about it. This MS 250 really sings and revs right out compared to the Poulan Pro. But anyway, we're going to do a little cut with this one and maybe just show a bit of the difference here.
Okay, let's stop there. Listen to this MS 250 and listen to how she just sings. I've since sold that saw, but that was a damn good little saw. I cut a pile of firewood with that thing, and just revs to the moon. And yeah, she's still a great little saw.
There you have it. She definitely cuts better than the Poulan Pro, but it is a more expensive saw, so you get what you pay for. Okay, so final thoughts on these two saws. You know, there's no doubt about it. The MS 250 is the better saw, but you know, the Poulan Pro, if you buy it on sale, you know, and you're just cutting, you know, or around the yard or the acreage, or just, you know, smaller firewood, maybe softwoods, that type of thing, the that saw will do it for you. If you do a little more cutting, or you just want like no problems, nothing that's finicky, you just want a saw that'll run, and you want something that you can sell down the road, like resale value obviously is going to be better on the Stihl, then buy it, and you know, buy it on sale if you can. In Canada, they're, I think, $450. They go on sale, they're around, you know, $380 or something. You know, this one will go on sale for probably under $200 Canadian. So you kind of can't go wrong with either saw. This one works pretty good now. As good as it's ever worked. And you know, I'd have no problems buying one if it was just for doing a little bit of work here and there, you know. But this thing revs higher. It's just crisper, cleaner. It's easier to access and work on if you have to work on it. The quality of it is just hands down better. And yeah, just no problems with this saw. My MS 170 was the same thing. Never touched it. I don't even think I put a spark plug in it. I ran it for a long time and then sold it. Bought this thing. They just work good. So this one here seemed to be like I had to adjust it lots to get the idle to where it needed to be. It seemed finicky. But again, made in China. You know, they're just, the tolerances aren't the same. Nothing's as high of quality. The only thing that I like that works great that's made in China is this phone right here, an iPhone. They're made in China and they're good, but they use high-end materials. They don't use high-end materials with these things. Years ago, when Poulan was just on their own, Poulan, before they merged with the other Pioneer, I think it was, and Partner, you know, they were a high-end saw, and now they're a Homeowner, just lower end. And I guess this one is too. This isn't a pro saw, but it works darn good.
Okay, a few things. First of all, I don't think they come on sale under $200 Canadian. I think it's around $250. Or I don't know. Maybe it is under there. Anyways, they're almost half the cost of the Stihl. And then the other thing was, I said that it's easier to work on the Stihl than the Poulan, but what I meant by that was just taking the cover off. If you have to actually work on the cylinder and all that stuff, then the Poulan's easier because that whole top cover comes off. But I just meant like for easy access to the spark plug. You don't have to use a wrench or anything. And I think that's about it. Oh, and also I said made in China. I don't know if they are or not. Maybe it's made in Taiwan or whatever, but I think they're just assembled in the U.S. And I think they get parts from elsewhere, but you know, don't quote me on that. It's actually not as bad. The more I cut with that saw, the more I actually appreciate it for the price of it. You know, it wasn't a bad saw at all.
Okay, so that's it for this video, and maybe I'll have another saw soon that I can put up against the MS 250, since that's the only saw I have right now. But maybe I'll get another saw and I can do a good comparison, something a little more equal, maybe like you know, like a 45cc John Surratt or Husqvarna, something like that.
Okay, update. So in this video, yeah, I had the one saw. I since sold it, the Stihl, and I now have 12 saws. I got a whole bunch of them, home lights and Husqvarna's, old, like mostly vintage ones. Um, a Chinese saw, 50cc saw that I just did there. There's a review I did on that one. Yeah, I ended up watching or discovering Buck and Billy Ray's YouTube channel, and I don't know what the heck, but it just yeah, it really got me onto these old saws. So I now have 12, and that was only, you know, not long after I took this video that I had all those saws.
Okay, that's it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And if not, well, that's okay too. Over and out.
Okay, I'm going to add in that I actually ended up doing some mods to that Poulan Pro, Poulan Pro, Pulling Pro. Anyway, yeah, I did a muffler mod, and I did some little mods to the intake. Nothing crazy, but it actually rips really good now, that saw. I'm really impressed with it. I never did put a bucking spike on it yet. That would smarten it up, and it definitely could use the the bigger 0.325 chain, but or barn chain, whatever. I don't know my chains and chain sizes very good yet, but I just know that it could use the bigger. It could definitely pull it. It has the power now. So I'll be doing a review on that one shortly, just showing what the muffler mod did and how it sounds and stuff like that.